A No More StinkyMonkeys.com production, the Freditor's 8th annual Top 10 list. Maybe I'm getting older, but the movies each year appear to be getting worse or at least getting very stale. 2009 was bad, and I struggled to find a top 10 then. And 2010 was even worse. But 2011 was definitely the hardest. Not one movie knocked my socks off, and some old standbys like Pixar Productions didn't even place a film this year. Cars 2 was even worse than Cars 1, and Cars 1 was the worst movie they ever made. But there were some movies that stood out and deserve recognition, even if the Academy Awards chooses to ignore them. So here's my list, just a few hours before the Oscar telecast is about to start. And as always, I start with my honorable mentions. Contagion. What makes this movie so good is that director Steven Soderbergh can take an all-star cast of Oscar nominees and still make us believe that they are all dying of an international virus. And this movie made me much more leery of touching my face and touching handrails. Warrior. Nick Nolte plays a recovering alcoholic fight trainer who has two sons enter a UFC tournament. Fight scenes are very intense, but it's the acting, especially by his sons, Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy, that makes this movie come alive. Thunder Soul, a documentary about the first all-black high school stage band to win national competitions back in the 1970s. On the 35th anniversary of Houston's Kashmere High School's victory, the entire band reunites to perform one last show for their mentor and teacher, Conrad Prof. Johnson. The sax solo alone is worth the price of admission. Not a number, it's still an honorable mention. The Beaver. I love Mel Gibson, the actor, way more than Mel Gibson, the director. And here he has a tour de force as an emotionally crippled man who uses a beaver hand puppet and an Australian accent to convey his true feelings to his wife and director Jodie Foster. Bridesmaids. Others loved this movie and felt it was very funny, but I've been a huge fan of Kristen Wiig since her very first episode of Saturday Night Live, and I thought this movie was only intermittently funny. But Melissa McCarthy is fantastic as the butch sister-in-law, and the bridal gown store scene is also worth the price of admission. Moneyball. Brad Pitt does his second best acting job this year as former Met Billy Beane, the Oakland A's brilliant general manager. Jonah Hill is equally great as his man Friday, a numbers genius who steers baseball scouting in a whole new direction. Where this movie and philosophy fail is in the fact that Moneyball has never even won a pennant, let alone a World Series. Rango. Johnny Depp and a slew of great voice actors play a town full of desert animals fighting over water rights in this brilliant animated Western comedy. It grabs from so many classic Westerns that you'll lose count, but one scene involving a man with no name, played by Justified's Timothy Oliphant, made this one even more special for me. Excuse me. Tree of Life. Brad Pitt is a hyper-traditional 50s father in Waco, Texas, who mentally abuses his oldest son and wife in this trippy look at an American life from the always bizarre Terrence Malick. I loved how Malick managed to cram an entire boyhood of events into 90 minutes of film, but he lost me with his nonsensical 2001 Space Odyssey style looks at the beginnings of the planet and universe. And it loses big points for the fact that you have to watch this movie on DVD so you can use the subtitles for dialogue that is often too low to hear. Hugo. Martin Scorsese knows a ton about cinema, but he still doesn't know how to tell a tight story. I fell asleep for about a half an hour in the center of this film, but the scenes of early 20th century Paris are great, and the tribute to the movies of pioneer filmmaker Georges Méliès was a very nice touch. Paranormal Activity 3. I'm a sucker for these cinema verite style horror films, but what makes this one better than Insidious is simply the use of unknown actors. It's almost impossible for these videotape movies to work with recognizable faces. The terror dies when you know the crazy old lady is Barbara Hershey. Okay, now for the top 10. Number 10, Harold and Kumar's 3D Christmas. Pound for pound, the funniest movie of the year. Is it dumb? Yes. But are there some brilliant moments? Certainly. The tribute to the frozen tongue scene in Christmas Story is hysterically funny. Number 9, Win-Win. A criminally underseen film. Paul Giamatti plays a struggling lawyer, wrestling coach, and family man who takes in the mysterious teenage grandson of one of his clients out of guilt for committing fraud. At times very funny and filled with a lot of emotion. Superb acting from a crew of pros, including Bobby Cannavale and Amy Ryan. Number 8, Cedar Rapids. Another great comedy that went unnoticed. Like a more serious hangover, Ed Helms plays a tight-ass insurance salesman going to a convention in the big city of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, who comes across a fun bunch that tries to loosen him up. The always great Anne Hesh and John C. Reilly become wallflowers as he unleashes his wild desires. Number 7, The Artist. While Martin Scorsese made a tribute to early French cinema, the French have made a tribute to early Hollywood cinema. A silent movie about a man like Rudolph Valentino, who was about to lose his stardom when Hollywood introduced talkies. A great performance by Jean Dujardin as Valentine, but an even better one by Uggy the dog. While it's a true homage, the film is weighed down by way too many cliches. Number 6, The Guard, the most fun movie of the year. When Hollywood sees a movie like this and decides not to push it, is it out of spite or idiocy? Brendan Gleeson plays a seemingly brainless policeman on the west coast of Ireland, but he's actually closer to a hard-drinking, really fat but really smart Columbo. Working a drug smuggling case with FBI agent Don Cheadle, Gleeson gives the audience and Cheadle just enough answers to force even more questions. Like, did he really finish 4th in swimming at the Olympics? Number 5, The Descendants. George Clooney plays a sad sack native Hawaiian who has to deal with the dual problems of caring for a comatose wife while finding a man she had an affair with. Realistically told, as there are no big wins or losses, just little baby triumphs along the way. And Robert Forster is fantastic as Clooney's incredibly angry father-in-law. His words sound biting and mean, but they are filled with truth. Some good comedy breaks through what would have been an incredibly depressing film. Director Alexander Payne's best. The 4, The Help. Not a great movie, but a very good one about the horrible state of life that black Southern housemaids faced leading up to the civil rights movement of the early 60s. Emma Stone is really good as Skeeter, the daughter of privilege in Jackson, Mississippi, who decides to write a book about these maids' experiences in the most racist state in the country. Viola Davis is even better as the first maid to speak out, Abilene, but it's Octavia Spencer as the angry Minnie who steals the show. However, the dangers these women feel fear for revealing their true thoughts is never fully realized because the movie goes for cute laughs when it should be going for the gut. Call this one Mississippi Singeing instead of Mississippi Burning. Number 3, The Company Men. I know it was made in 2010, but it wasn't released until 2011. Ben Affleck is perfect as a snobby, ladder-climbing asshole who gets laid off at his successful company, along with dozens of others while the economy tanks around them. Tommy Lee Jones is even better as the company's founder and conscience. The acting is fantastic across the board, and there are so many memorable moments, big and small, but my favorite was when Affleck forgot to bring lunch to a construction job and his new co-worker offers him half his sandwich. This movie is a microcosm of modern-day America, and few other films are nearly as honest. Number 2, 50-50. When you think of the hardest subjects to get laughs about, cancer has to be right at the top. With cancer, you're not in danger of offending a special group, you're in danger of offending everyone. So this movie gets major props for chutzpah and more so for pulling it off. Writer Will Reiser tells his true tale of a 27-year-old clean-living PBS editor, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, contracts a rare form of cancer with a 50-50 life expectancy. Seth Rogen plays his best friend who helps him try to make the best of the awful situation. But once again, Anna Kendrick breaks through some bleak material, a la Up in the Air, by lighting up the screen with a wonderful performance as Levitt's special cancer psychiatrist. And the number 1 movie of the year, in my estimation,
They are contaminated.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I love this movie, even though I admit it could be better. The small quibbles I hear about it are not sufficient enough to knock it in my estimation. But in this year of the imperfect movie, to paraphrase Dick Young, this was the imperfect number 1 film. Why Planet of the Apes? Well, it helps that I'm one of the Planet of the Apes' biggest fans going back to 1974, but also for the sheer fact that this movie made me cheer out loud like few others did, and was filled with jaw-dropping surprises. One of the best acting jobs of the year was done by Andy Serkis as Caesar. He was hidden under computer paint, but this was physicality, but this was his physicality you were watching on screen. The heartbreaking moments when he realized he wasn't going home that second time, the look of pride in his face when his fellow apes developed a sense of self, and the way he grows from sweet innocent chimp to the leader of his race. Spellbinding. John Lithgow as Caesar's grandpa is also excellent. The script is strong, the direction is focused and swift, and the plot well thought out. As a reboot, it ranks up there with Spider-Man and Batman, and hopefully, like those series, will be even better for its episode 2. Well, there you go. That's it from the Freditor.